This is the Cafe con Podcast.
Pretty crispy. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Isaac.
And I'm George.
And
This is the Cafe con Podcast.
that sounds expensive. Got to say it every time.
Exquisite.
Sounds expensive. So let's talk about who we just had on. We had on Michael Ridley. He came to us via Cole Needham. Well, actually, that's how he got privy to who we are. The guy is one of the most fascinating people that I've had the pleasure of speaking to. Here's some of his accolades. He is the best actor for Knee High 2024 Cinevision Award. He also has the Los Angeles Independent Shorts Award, Bronze Award for Best Actor in Closure. And he also has an Irene Ryan Award for playing Chris in All My Sons. The dude is very, very fascinating. I was so impressed by his vocabulary, which I brought it up a lot of times in the episode. The way that he would just string words together to paint a picture, I'm like, damn, dude, that was an embarrassment of riches on this project. I will never forget that. He said we had an embarrassment of riches. I was like, wow, I understand what that means. Somebody having so much that they're like, wow, we're lucky. You know, it was just, he was just awesome. What did you take? What did you take from this EP?
Eloquent man, right? Distinguished, but very, like, a lot of humility, like very not pompous about anything. Seemed like a cool guy. Definitely would want to do a part 2 just to get more information, because this is more of just like breaking ground of seeing who he is and what he does. But cool guy, you know, just someone that seems like very grounded, right? He grew up in Colorado. I love Colorado, so it was cool. I've been to Aspen a couple of times growing up, and I loved it.
Have you really? You've been to Aspen?
Yeah, I went skiing a bunch of times growing up with family members, so that was pretty cool.
I would love to go there.
Yeah, it was a beautiful place. But it was a very, I would say, easy burn of a episode. Just chill episode. Really cool guy. Really cool guy.
That's what you said. Yeah. What did you say about him a few minutes ago? That you said that this episode was the most calm episode. Is that what you said? This was like the most calm episode we've had. It's true, man. He was, I'm telling you, he's a very intentional human being, measured with his words, but not measured in a way where he's like, oh, I don't know what people are going to think about me. I think he's measured just in the way that he's processing what his brain is thinking and then saying it, because he has so much to choose from in his brain. So very, very interesting dude. Just talked about his films that he shot on, the difference in shooting between film versus digital, how he felt, the things that inspire him, a little bit about where he's from. It kind of took a lot of directions. Filmmakers that he's really inspired by, actors that he's really inspired by. I would say that this episode for sure is, in terms of realizing what the language of your passions are, this is a good dude to listen to. Mm-hmm. He has a very keen understanding of what his passion looks like, what the dictionary of his passion is, if I could put it, and his craft and his pursuits.
Student of the craft. He named off a lot of different actors, film situations. Like, it was cool. I didn't know half of them, but it was cool to hear.
I was gonna say I caught about like 85%. You know, and I consider myself to at least know something. I caught about 85%. I was just,
you're the student of the craft too, right? Like you knew 85%. I didn't know any. And I mean, I'm not in film or anything like that, but it just seemed like he was naming off, like you said, there was a wide range of people he named off. That was pretty cool.
And he was interested in your pursuits as well. That's something else. He came across as very curious.
Yeah.
And genuinely curious, very earnestly curious.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, just an easy guy to talk to. I think that you guys will get a lot from this episode. So, you know, thank you guys for listening. Enjoy Michael Ridley. It's just going to be something that you will grow from. This will certainly be something that you grow from. And if you guys know anybody, or you want us to talk about anything, send them our way, both ideas and people. And we may talk to them. We may talk about those things, or we may not. Guess you have to tune in to listen. And we love you, each and every one of you.
Each
for
of them.
doing that.
Each and every one of you. You just don't forget.
Don't forget it.
Don't forget.
The only thing that you can't do, you cannot forget that. Wait for it. Wait for it. It's better when you wait.
This is the Cafe con Podcast.
Bye or enjoy.
The liquid gold, baby.
Coffee review time. So, I've been drinking coffee. What I'm sipping today, I'm going back to good old Reverent Coffee Company from Oakhurst, California. I believe it is there, if I'm not mistaken, the Mexico blend. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of those. And we actually did this review in the episode, which was a good call on your part, George. But let's just talk about it right now. I said this was about a 7-8. I think that's about right, the way that I'm feeling. I'm seeing the effects of the coffee about an hour and a half after drinking it. I'd say it's about right. I'm about 7-8. The taste is incredible. They always deliver on the actual flavor of the coffee, and I'm feeling pretty smooth right now. You know, I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to last night, and I'm feeling pretty good. I don't feel jittery. I don't feel like I have too much energy, but that's subjective. I feel great. So what about your little CP over there?
I mean, I had the same coffee that we reviewed last episode, but I did give a different rating, right? I gave a lower rating, I think. Not by much.
You gave it higher. Well, what's the coffee? Because they might not have listened to the last episode.
It was I gotta grab it. It's the Puerto Rican
Arabica.
Arabica, yeah. It's from Puerto Rico.
That's right. The mountains of Puerto Rico.
The mountains of Puerto Rico. 100% made and distributed from Puerto Rico, that was cool. Yeah, this time I think I'll give it like a 7.7. I think I gave it 7.6 on the episode. I'm not sure. Some of you wondering why is it a different rating? Because it's a different day. So yeah. We're like IMDb. If we give you 7s, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah. But I like that. I like that explanation. Why is it different today? Because it's a different day.
Yeah, it's a different day. You know,
Leave it at that.
It didn't hit as hard as I would want it to, but it's doing the job. You know, maybe the rating might change next time I take it. We'll find out.
I love it. Enjoy your coffees, everyone.
Enjoy.
Bang! Now we're good. Hello, gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you for that. Thank you for the patience. Cheers! I've been waiting to drink the coffee. Saluti.
Salud.
You're a brave soul with your cold brew. You said you were steeping your cold brew. Do you make your let's start there. Do you make your cold brew?
I try to, yeah. We have a big, it's basically like a mason jar. I think it's relatively popular, but you steep like a cup and a half of grounds overnight, and it just makes like a whole unit, basically, cold brew that you can drink.
Wow.
Basically from a spigot, yeah.
Is there a specific coffee that you use to do that?
Not a specific coffee, no. I kind of like to oscillate a little bit. Right now, it's this brand of Hawaiian grounds that are quite good. It's vanilla macadamia nut. So,
ooh,
this is me
vanilla
spoiling
macadamia.
myself,
Ooh,
Well, I like how you said I tried to, and then you went into detail of like it's like an overnight brew.
I know. This
You're
is
not trying, bro. You're doing it. You're actually doing it.
catch me, the most willing to work unpaid spokesperson for this.
Dude, I feel you because I literally swear by. I have talked about this one coffee on here so many times called Reverent Coffee Company out of
That's right. Yeah.
Oakhurst. Dude,
Mhm.
they are unbelievable. We started actually drinking a different one recently from Alaska. It's a blueberry coffee, and it
A
is
blueberry coffee.
Yeah.
fantastic. It's called North Pole Roasting Company. So
I'm
it's
gonna immediately just ingrain that. into my
Yeah, I got an
daily
idea.
like,
I got an
regular,
idea. This might
What?
be a first time for our podcast. I think you should
Yeah.
give a 1 to 10 rating for his coffee because
Oh.
we usually do that like when we're done with the episode, like just Isaac and I. So if you want to give a
No,
1 to
no,
10,
I like that idea. Actually,
yeah, and you can
I
go
like
into
that a lot.
detail of why you gave it that number. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
So what do you rate your coffee?
Me,
Yeah.
I would give this a solid out of 10. You said I would give this a solid 8 to 8.5 out of 10.
Ooh.
It's like
All right.
it has a lot of flavor. It's got a lot of body. You notice I'm using a lot of language that I have no authority to use whatsoever.
Okay.
It's got a lot of
Okay.
flavor, a lot of body, and it's also like it's very no frills. It's kind of a means to an end a little bit.
Honestly,
What about you
dude,
guys?
oh man, I don't know. I'll tell you at the end of this cup how I'm feeling with this one. But just off the sip,
Mm.
oh god, that's good. I'd probably give mine like I'm probably like around a 7.8, 7.9. I'm drinking
Beautiful.
Reverent. Yeah, it's
I
good.
was gonna
It's
say
good.
7.5 for mine. 7.6.
Man,
Yeah,
I
That's a
have
good
a
range.
Yosemite mug. I noticed.
yes, sir.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. Does it have a red interior?
Yes, it does.
Damn. Okay. I
It's
love that this
You ever been to
is.
Yosemite or no?
Have I ever been to Yosemite?
Yeah.
No, it's one of the main, I guess, most trafficked parts that I'm dying to go to. I've been a lot around
Oh,
to like Zion, and
oh
I just went to
beautiful.
Canyonlands and Arches over the 4th of July weekend, which was a lot of fun. It was very hot, but it was a lot of fun.
You went
Did
to
you guys spend much time in
Canyon?
Yosemite?
Oh, dude, we got married in Yosemite, my wife and I.
Did you
Uh,
actually?
yeah, yeah. So we
Oh, wait,
love
wait, wait.
Yosemite,
I just listened to the episode where you talked about getting married in Yosemite with
dude.
Cole, actually. Cole Neal.
Oh man, we'll get into Cole too. That's how all this. Actually, this has been a really nice, easy, organic way of getting into things. I like starting it with that, George. That was a good idea.
Thank
Asking
you.
about the coffee, asking the person to rate the coffee. It's not a bad move.
just thought of it randomly.
No,
Okay.
Because he
oh,
made it. He made it and everything. So I'm like, let's see what
Yeah.
he says
Oh,
about it.
dude, your echo is
just
horrible right now. Yeah, but that's because you hopped off and hopped back in. I don't think your mic isn't connected. I think you're just talking through. No. You don't have to hop out. Just change your mic. Your mic's not connected on the actual interface. Like go to the bottom there where it says mic, because I can see it on my end. You might have to unconnect your mic and connect it back in.
Yeah, because it disconnected from my computer. But I'm
That's okay. Disconnect. Take it out. And put it back in.
my
So
visual interface is so like wonky right now that it puts my face almost perfectly on top of George's right now. So every time I look over at George when he's speaking, it's just like it kind of shocks me because I'm just staring at myself. I'm sure it'll
Dude.
work itself out.
Oh yeah, that's the cool thing about Riverside. Shout out Riverside is that we used to do this on Zoom when we first started,
Mm.
and Zoom was tough because you have to really go into the settings and do each individual recording. But Riverside is made for this kind of stuff, so it just
Yeah,
individually records everybody's track separately. So therefore, whenever we're editing it and we're doing it later on, it's so much easier to edit it. George actually does all that, but it's just so much easier because then we just put the actual camera on the speaker. So therefore, like if any of this stuff is happening, like while he's doing all this, they won't see it. You know what I mean?
am I good now?
Yes,
perfect.
much better.
Yeah, dude, this is the best app ever.
Much better.
This is the
Much,
best
much
app ever.
better.
My USB
Yeah.
had disconnected or got wonky.
No, that's perfect. So, okay, we were talking about Yosemite and Canyonlands. Is Canyonlands in Utah?
Canyonlands is in Utah. Yeah,
I
it's
feel like that's
gorgeous.
one of the ones. I
Paradise.
mean, my wife and I love national parks. Like we love national parks, but we got married in Yosemite. Highly recommend going to Yosemite. It is trafficked. However,
Mhm.
it's so gigantic
Mhm.
that it won't feel trafficked. Like, have you been to Grand Canyon at all?
Yeah, it's yeah, yes, I
Okay, because when we
have.
went, so we camped on the southern rim, and that
Mhm.
to me was like Disney World because
It is so it is. It is
it's
just it's otherworldly over there. It really
yes,
is.
but there were so many people when we went. That was what I was saying is that there's so many people when we went that it because in order to really, I want to do it again. I want to go down to the actual like interior of the Grand Canyon and go on the Colorado River and do all that. Right? It's Colorado, I think it is.
Mhm.
Anyways, I want to do that because I think that's the way to do it. We drove around it and it was gorgeous and everything, but it was hard to get away from people when we went at least certain times. Basically, that was a
Well,
long-winded way of saying Yosemite, you'll feel very solitary and you
It's the
can find
best.
your way to
The
just
best.
being in nature
that
alone.
I would buy. What time of year were you in the Grand Canyon?
We went, so Sky moved out here in July. So we went around end of July, early August, I want to say.
Mm,
But it was 2018.
mm.
2018. So it's been a minute. I would love to go back though.
I was going to say, I know that there's a specific clutch of national parks, which now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm not aware of which ones off the top of my head specifically, but they have their foot traffic just explodes during the summer months, which I think now May kind of includes the summer months as
Yeah,
well for them.
yeah.
And I would not doubt if Grand Canyon is one of
Is
them, just because
is that a
one of,
place you
I would
guys
say,
like just pass through, or is it like you stay there like for more than one day?
Grand Canyon?
Yeah,
You gotta stay more than one day.
yeah.
It's the
if you want to
Grand
see everything,
Canyon.
yeah,
Oh
and
There's a
everything
lot
yeah.
kind
of
of outside of it, just like
there's a lot of stuff to do outside of it.
quite
Okay,
a bit, yeah, yeah.
okay, interesting.
There's
For sure.
I need to go.
yeah. We went to the plan was to camp around the Grand Canyon around New Year's Eve and like kind of watch the sunrise from the Grand Canyon
Oh
in
man.
2021. But that was during COVID, and so many of their backcountry camping reservations were booked out or just uh, they were limited, I guess, during the pandemic. And so we kind of really had to improvise, and we ended up camping around somewhere in the desert and then watching the sunrise on New Year's Day from Horseshoe Bend, which is
Oh.
not too far from the canyon itself. And it was stunning. Pictures can't possibly do it justice.
Man, I need to go. I
How
need to
did it
go.
feel? I want to know what because I could just tell. Thank you for sending us everything beforehand, but the way that you write, the way that you talk, you have such a poetic art mind in the way that you talk.
God.
So please tell me how that felt seeing, because there have been moments in my life where the breath has literally escaped from my body, and one of those was the first time I saw Tunnel View in Yosemite. That's
Oh, I'm so jealous.
dude.
That's
How
like it's
was
one of those things too, where it's like you're very conscious in the moment of just how quickly your life moves and how quickly even just your mind kind of like pivots focus from one thing to another, and then you're looking at this one thing and you're like, I have to focus all of my energy on this because I want to remember this. Um, it sneaks up on you a little bit. Have you been to Horseshoe Bend?
no, no, I haven't been to
No.
Horseshoe Bend, but I just even you talking about that, it's interesting when you're trying to be so focused in the moment and you're trying to dedicate all that energy towards that one thing. Sometimes for myself, that even takes me out of the moment. It's like you're telling
Really?
yourself, be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. And I'm like, the moment's passing. Just look,
Yeah.
sometimes I have to remind myself, it's don't remind yourself so much to be in the moment. Just literally, I always go back to just be where your feet are. Oh, wow, look at where my feet are. And then I start to look around and what do I smell? All that kind of stuff. Just going back to all that. But you kept saying we. Who is we? You kept saying we went to Grand Canyon, Horseshoe Bend.
That was me and my partner, and then me and my
Nice.
friends. We kind of adventure all over the place, which is it's the one kind of thing we all force each other to do, whether it's really planned out or very spontaneous. Like a big group of us, we all just went to Arches and Canyonlands. We stayed in Moab and just spent all day, if it wasn't too hot, kind of outside and biking around a little bit.
How long does it
And
take to get there?
it depends. So from where we're at, it was about a 5, 6 hour drive. And then I think, so Arches National Park is like a really quick jaunt, 20, 30 minutes from Moab proper. And then Canyonlands is about, I want to say, an hour to an hour and a half
Okay.
from the city. And that's where the needles are. That's where, um, I mean, just like, again, my brain is spinning just so many different incredible, like, blink and you'll miss it kind of picturesque hikes that you've probably seen in calendars and on a myriad of geological maps. So it's pretty
You
nice.
got to go to Yosemite, bro.
Yeah.
You got to go to
Yeah,
Yosemite.
I'm
Isaac
dying to.
introduced me to Yosemite. I've been there twice, and I'd say for the most part too, the road trips in California are way more fun than
Oh,
Florida.
I mean,
And
bro.
because the biodiversity and the breadth of different environments that you get, where like in SoCal, obviously the color palette is so like muted yellows and oranges and like obviously the coastal desert, and then you drive just 6 hours north and you're getting just like a tiny little like a wink of the Pacific Northwest with their
Yeah.
weather and a little bit of their weather and some of their flora, fauna, etc. And then a little bit further north, and you're in Humboldt County. Yeah, California has a surprising amount of. It's a, kind of a choose your own adventure in terms of.
Dude, George, you haven't been here. You haven't come to Cali in a minute, but
Yeah.
a new place that my wife and I like to go to a lot is Mendocino. Have you ever been to Mendocino?
I've been to
Mendocino
Encino.
County.
Yeah. Mendocino. You've been to where? Mendocino what?
I said Encino.
Yeah. You haven't even been to Encino. You haven't even, Doc, don't, we're So Mendocino is like 3.5 hours northwest of San Francisco. And my wife and I, how do we find? Oh, because she likes to look up all these B&Bs and all this stuff. And she saves the B&Bs in, dream B&Bs to go to. And there's a literal tree house in Elk, California, which is directly under Mendocino, right on the coastline. One of the most unbelievable places we've ever been. Another place I highly recommend if you haven't been there. For one of our anniversaries, we ate lunch at this 2 Michelin star restaurant called, and that sounds very foo-foo, but I literally saved so long to just eat at this restaurant. And it's called Harbor House Inn. Dear God, the sourdough bread was unbelievable. It was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life, dude. Mendocino, like you were just saying, you get a wink of the Pacific Northwest. That's exactly how it is, because you start to see all the redwoods are out there, the mist that rolls in, all the trees are growing in this weird swirly fashion. It's just unbelievable. California, you when you live in California, you vacation in California. That's the saying. Californians vacation in
I
California
believe that.
because there's
I
just
believe that.
so much stuff. Okay, that was a good segue into just leading off. Let's get into who Michael Ridley is.
Right
Where
on.
are you from? Where are you from originally?
I was born in Wisconsin, but raised in Colorado. Um, and then,
Hmm.
by virtue of life and the job, I've kind of been all over the
That
place.
boy representing the Midwest. Okay. I was born in Chicago, so that's why I said that. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Okay. Yeah, but I left when I was super young. How old were you when you left Wisconsin?
Super, super young. I
Yeah.
think like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I was like 4 when I came to Miami. It's about the same.
Really?
Yeah. You
You ever
still have a
get to
lot
go
of
back?
Yeah. I got a lot of family there still. I would say we were the first. I have a big family, so we were the first of like the whole family to move out here, and then I would say like 30 or 40% followed. But we still have a good
Hmm.
amount in Chicago, like a very good amount, very very good amount. Do
Okay.
you have any? Do
So
you have
it's
still
like
a lot of family up there too, or what?
not in that general area, kind of spread about a little bit. Some are in the
Okay.
Midwest, some are actually in Northern California, some are in Southern California.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very wide dearth.
And then Colorado. What part are we talking?
Denver, just outside of Denver area and Denver proper. Um, and then I went to school in Southern Colorado, in Durango.
Ooh,
Durango.
Hmm.
Durango. Bro, I love Colorado. I really do. I mean, we always talk
Yes.
about moving to Colorado, but I just don't know where. I
Really?
don't know where. I don't know where we're gonna end up. But I just know that we're like, should we move here? Should we move there? That's something else that we're always talking about. Recently, mine is like London sounds awesome.
Oh
I
wow.
Oh, the
love.
wanderlust is kicking in.
It's kicked in, kicking in, continues to kick. It's never leaving. Okay, so you went to school in Durango, and then you
Mhm.
found yourself out here. But in that in between, did you go straight from college to out here? What did you study in college? Talk to us about, the inception of the seeds to make you do what you're doing right now in your life.
Well, I'm actually back in Colorado right now, which is cool.
What?
Um, and but by virtue of work, I kind of am all over the place. I'm in California pretty frequently. I'm actually about to go back to New York and Connecticut for a film in a few days now, which is pretty exciting.
Congrats.
And thank you, very excited. But yeah, to answer your question, after school, in between, you know, various uh, different plans of where to kind of, throw myself off to and, really find the creative path I wanted to start on because, of course, like when you're 21 years old, it's like it's all about like how can I be as serious about this as possible, like right out the gate, without any uh, solid foundation of how to start, really. And so for me, that was New York, and I graduated, moved out there for a few years, and um, then when the pandemic happened, it just kind of it simultaneously like reminded me that the whole part of you know my fulfillment that I really missed was being nomadic in the work, and so kind of giving myself the freedom to jump from place to place if I needed to, and also just wanting to eventually see what it was like to live in a place like LA semi full time. So I gave that a shot. Very quickly realized I missed the mountains and some fresh air, and so at the earliest opportunity. Sorry, you're getting some silence.
More to your
um,
point. More to your point of
yeah,
missing the mountains.
yeah. No, please let that just italicize my point. But like, yeah, I think I've lived in a few different places, but I do spend a lot of time on both coasts for work and a little bit out of the country.
What do you like more?
LA or New York?
Yeah.
Uh, I gun to my head, I would say New York, just
Yeah.
because of the place, the culture, and a lot of the there's something for everybody year round, and it's also like I think it's a lot easier to find your creative and personal community out there, and
Yes.
it's a lot more how do I say this? It's a lot less coddling, I think. Um, I mean, Isaac, I mean, both of you actually know pretty well. Like you're in a line of work where uh, you simultaneously benefit a lot from honesty and constructive feedback, but then so many people really just blow smoke up your ass because nobody really wants to engage with what works and what doesn't. A lot of people are afraid of hurting feelings, understandably so. In New York, it's not like that. They'll tell you in the moment, what works and what doesn't, and it doesn't come from any place of like maliciousness or um, trying to tear you down in any way. It's really just like acknowledging you as an equal, walking into this room and saying this didn't work. Before you go into the next room, you should know what does work and what you can change. So I find that very conducive. But I love my creative peers in LA. I love the food. I feel like the weather is a little bit oppressive sometimes. It's a little too hot for me. But
Dude. I'm from Miami. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and they were saying, "Oh, I couldn't stand the Miami heat." And I go, "The difference with Miami is
mm,
that it's so humid, you sweat,
mm,
and then when you get a breeze, you cool off. Whereas in
yeah,
LA, when there's a breeze, it's just hot air blowing into your face, so it's not as if you're cooling off ever, unless you're like by the ocean and things like that."
mm.
I hear you
There's
on that,
still,
man.
yeah. There's a lot of cool
Totally agree.
hikes out in LA though,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
I
kind of
mean,
nice.
the
Yeah,
mountains, like you
one
were
of my best
saying.
friends lives out there, and he showed me around. He took me um, to Topanga Canyon, which was nice.
Nice.
Uh, where else? Uh, Angeles National Forest, of course.
Oh, Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings. It's like Lord of the Rings land right around the
it
corner.
is just, man, stunning. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, please do. That's what happens when we drink coffee. Everybody just starts talking really, really quickly.
Everybody just
I
starts
I,
zooming.
I I wanted to touch on all the places that you've lived in. So, are you have no home base first and foremost? Do you have a home base technically speaking, like where you're
Yeah,
based out of, or where are you based out of, if you don't mind sharing?
currently. Yeah, no, you're good. I consider Colorado to be my home base. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. I don't know. It's just such a point of pride. I love Colorado. It's beautiful pretty much no matter where
It's
you look.
so amazing. I went to Rocky Mountain National Park not too long ago, like a few years ago.
Mm,
Unbelievable. And we have a good friend of ours, George and I have a friend of ours that is from Boulder. He's actually right
mm.
now going from the tip of Alaska down to the tip of South America on a bicycle. So
That is incredible.
it's such a Colorado thing to do. So that's
It very much is, yeah.
it's like
He's just
he's the
gonna
man.
have, yeah, he's gonna have pretty much like just thighs made of
Yeah, dude.
solid steel by the end of that.
Yes.
Somebody's
He
gonna
told
buy the life rights to his story when he finishes it.
bro, he is that should be the name of his book, Thighs of Steel. So that
100%.
I asked him, did you train for this? He goes, no. One of my neighbors, he does these extreme types of journeys. I don't know what they're called, extreme journeyman, whatever. And he said the guy told him, you want to have a little bit of fat on you when you start
Mm-hmm.
because you are going to lose so much weight that
Mm-hmm.
you want to start off with some padding. And you
Mm-hmm.
train by riding your bike here and there, but you kind of get into shape by riding throughout the trip. So he's like, you can
Certainly.
train, but you don't want to train super hard. Okay, that was a little aside. I wanted to touch on
Yeah,
something
yeah.
you said about New York, and then we'll get
Mm-hmm.
into your places. You talked about the non-coddling, and
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to actors in specific, I saw something that Chris Nolan said yesterday in an interview. I posted it on my IG, and he was talking about how he finds that intelligent actors can be defensive, and the reason why they can be defensive is because of the way that people communicate with them, right? So if you go up
Mm-hmm.
to an actor, and the moderator asked him, have you ever gotten into it with an actor? And he goes, no, because I just treat them intelligently, basically saying, if there is a scene and you only have one setup left and you thought you were going to have three setups, but you have to place the entire scene next to the window, just go up to the actor and say, hey, we're running short on time. We don't have enough time for three setups. I want to give you enough time. So if you can justify doing this entire scene by the window, that would be awesome. And typically, more often than not, the actors are like, okay, thank you. Let me work it out. I can work it out to make it work here. But if somebody goes up to them and it's like, yeah, no, what just dancing around that fact, the coddling aspect, which does
Mm-hmm.
happen a lot, and the blowing smoke, they get defensive because they can read. He said that good actors are like human lie detectors. They can see right through that, being like, you're not telling me something. Right now, you are
Mm-hmm.
avoiding telling me what's really going on. So what's really going on? So if you just tell them the truth, it's oftentimes going to be much more collaborative, and the solution will come from that rather than
Mm-hmm.
it not coming from that. So I just
Much
that
more
just made me
conducive
think of that.
to very, very, it's, it only helps in the long run for every person involved, I think.
I think a lot of people think that actors are unintelligent as well. Um, not everywhere, but I have seen that the way that people speak to actors, in specific. I've been in LA for almost 10 years, but out
Mm-hmm.
here, it's this sense of tiptoeing instead of it just being like
Yeah.
straight up.
Yeah, like there's an ego that needs to be stroked before you walk into any serious conversation, whether it's direction on a particular scene or just, I guess, something a bit more broad, general. When are you someone who benefits more from explicit direction as well?
Oh, this is a question that we've asked a lot of people that have come on that are actors. That's funny.
I
I was gonna get into this later on, like what kind of, but again, let's let the coffee run, baby.
was like, if
Um,
I'm derailing you, then by all means,
no,
you can
no,
just go
no, no,
ahead
no.
and
There are no
move me out of
plans.
this thing.
There are no plans in this podcast. Am I somebody who benefits from explicit direction? I am somebody who benefits from somebody telling me the truth. I'm
Mhm.
better at somebody giving me actionable steps towards something rather than a feeling. So I talk about this a
Mhm.
lot. And instead of telling me be angry, right? I want you to be angry. I would rather it come because anger can manifest itself in many different ways. I could give you the cold shoulder. I could explode on you. I could
Mhm.
treat you as an inferior. There are so many different ways to actually represent that anger. So if a director is not clear on what the path that they're trying to go towards, then it becomes muddy. So I am somebody who benefits from the explicit direction in terms of it being such as, this time, don't even look at her. I can understand something like that. You're so livid that you can't stand the sight of her. I understand that. But when somebody tells me, I just need you to be more angry, that doesn't make sense to me. It's hard for me to understand what they want in that sense. I've talked about the best direction I've gotten, um, and a few of them. just right off the bat is just listen. Just listen.
Mhm.
Just listen to her. Trust your instincts, and then also there was one director who I was just a day player. I came in. I was there to satisfy one of the lead's storylines in the show. So
Mm.
I had to nudge him in that direction, right? And the director told me, man, you just treat him like a little, like a little bitch. And I was like, okay, I understand what that means. When somebody tells me that, I understand what that means. That works for me, though. I'm like, all right, I get it. He goes, he's pissing, he's like, how could he talk to you this way? I'm like, all right, I get that. But when somebody goes, you're happy, I go, I don't know that. I don't know. I'm not sure what that means.
It's a very
So
nebulous direction.
correct. Nebulous is a good word for that. What about yourself? What pieces of direction have you found work for you, and what pieces of direction have you found that don't work for you?
Um, well, I mean, I think there is like a critical difference between explicit direction and being given line readings. There's a clear and fine difference between those two things. Whereas one is like a director telling you, um, how do we feel about a particular scene, or how do we feel about a particular character writ large? And if you guys align on that, there isn't much talking that needs to be done beyond that. You just kind of need to either shoot it or rehearse it. And if they're paying attention, they'll come up to you and they'll say, that worked, or that didn't work, and let's figure out what didn't work. And whereas, someone who is who's so specific about the way that something sounds or looks in, in an almost like playing with dolls kind of way, will walk up and say, I want you to say this word with a lilt on it, or I want you to cock your head when you say this. Like, personally, I don't really benefit from that at all. I find that kind of tedious, and I also find it at the end of the day, the easiest way to forget all of the productive things that you did. But I think this is just my belief too. I think it also kind of comes down to your receptive communicative skills, which like, I was actually going to ask that for both of you. Like, do you guys both benefit from someone saying exactly what does and doesn't work in both of your, like, just day-to-day work, or do you prefer to have like a more, I guess, let me show you what I'm gonna do, and then we'll chat it out afterwards when we approach it.
You could go ahead, George. You could take that one because I got to think about my answer for that one.
Um, at least for like make. So I came from the studies of like sound engineering, so
Mm,
it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about before of like taking direction. Like I've had people say like, "Hey, I want this portion of the song to sound like high pitched
mm,
and or like a certain tone." I rather have someone tell me like, "Hey, there's this Kanye song where he uses the chipmunk voice. I want
mhm,
this portion of the song." So the more specific, the better, I would say.
mm,
It's just a lot of people are scared to give a reference that specific because they don't want to be like copying,
mm,
but it's more so just for like a template, right? So
mhm,
I definitely like more direction when it comes to the engineering side of things and even production as well. If someone's like, "Hey, I want to make a song that sounds like this song," but not copying it, that helps a lot. Rather than just saying like what Isaac said, like, "Oh, I want a happy song or a sad song." And then for the DJing aspect, especially when I'm doing private parties,
mm,
I will ask the person like, "Hey, I know you're looking for me to set the vibe in the room, but if you have like 5 or 10 songs that you want to use as a reference of how you want the overall party to be or event to be, shoot that to me. Like if it's a Spotify playlist, I'm not saying I'm gonna play every single song on there, but it's gonna give me kind of like a flashlight in the dark before I even get to the event, right? But things can change. But that's to answer your question. Yeah, I would say I like more direction. At first, I didn't because I was just overly creative and I wanted to kind of master it on my own. But it's I think the best way to get through things is just to be collaborative and just get specific directions from people. So yeah, I would say
mhm,
yeah. It took time though. It took time to get to that point.
I think I'm on that same track. I think that my I guess, mission statement, you can say, whenever I'm doing anything, his best idea wins.
Hmm.
And in my day-to-day life, for instance, I've had many day jobs. I've worked in corporate America. I've done all sorts of things. I think that communication and clear communication is really hard to come by. And what I mean by that is I do, if somebody wants something done a right way that's going to help filter the water to make it clearer, that's a really bad analogy, but I would prefer them telling me what they wanted,
Hmm.
right? So if they can tell me what they want, I can then do it in that way versus them saying, "Hey, I've had a job where a boss told me, hey, do this,' and I had just started the job, and I was like, I don't know how to do that. All right, well, and then I did it, and I remember she came up and she was like, why are you doing it like that?" And I go, "You just told me to do this. I didn't know how to do it. Nobody's no, you're not supposed to do it that way." Okay, well, nobody's told me that way, so it's very muddy communication. So I think that in my everyday life, even in my personal relationship, in my marriage, I think that we've had this conversation before as well, where I cannot read her mind and she can't read my mind. In a lot of ways, I can anticipate what I think she's going to do because of past experiences and things like that. But there are still times when, when certain emotions, when you get flustered or you do this, or a lot of things are happening in your life and you expect your partner to be able to know what you want. Sometimes you forget that you have to tell them.
Hmm.
I am culpable of this as well. So I think that in telling somebody, just communicatively, not filled with emotion, not filled with anything else, just be like, hey, I really need your help on this to do this.
Hmm.
It's that sense of empathy, and empathizing with them always helps me better. And on, you were talking, Michael, I agree with what you're saying, is I think that some of the best directors as well are the ones that go, yeah, that worked or that didn't work, right? The one thing I don't ever want in a creative process is don't. I don't want to don't. I don't want to can't. I don't like those words, because if I hear don't do that, immediately I start to, the breadth of creativity starts to close for me. I think that the verbal choices you use are very important, specifically for creatives, because you just try, right? You're just aiming at a dartboard and you're trying to hit the mark that you're trying to hit. Whether it works or not remains to be seen until you're doing it. So you do it. It may not be what somebody wants. So they come up to you and they go, why don't we try it from this angle?
Hmm.
That works more for me personally.
Mhm.
Um, but
Money
like
can't
George,
buy it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
and George was saying it
yeah.
took me a long time to get there.
Hmm. Which is, it's interesting. I think George, like especially in particular, I've always thought that like sound engineering and like I guess music production kind of in the broad sense is the closest you'll get to like a creative science kind of. So you have to be told specifically, I want it to sound like this, or I want it to have this kind of pulse to it.
Mhm.
And so being told, I don't want this in there, I explicitly do want this in there is like the key to
Mhm.
making or breaking a piece, I think.
Mhm.
Whereas, you know, like an interpretive art, like not that music and sound is not an interpretive art, but something that's a little bit less tangible, kind
Mhm.
of like dance or like acting. It's all about finding. It's like it's kind of like a moving target, I guess. As
Mhm.
I personally am, like, I'm very, very on film. I'm very filmmaker driven, and a lot of filmmakers that I have worked with and the ones I really want to work with are very analytical, and some are very specific about I want like an actor to I want a character to say these words specifically as I wrote them, and the words as they're written are very, very important. And what we find on the day is a look that someone might make while you say it, or it's I don't know, it's different from person to person. Like I just worked with a filmmaker named Marissa Vaughn on a really special film called Me High. That she is hyper specific about the way that she wants every single sequence to feel as it leads into something a little bit grander, I guess. And as a result, like she highlights a lot of the quiet that exists in certain scenes, and she really, really like she makes it very acute, very, very, very well known for everybody. Like, don't be afraid to be slow. Don't try to rush through. Don't try to get from one feeling as it exists in the script to another feeling as it exists in the script. We've talked about this. We're going to rehearse it quickly, and then we're going to shoot it. And then if it doesn't work on film the way it worked on the page, then we will course correct.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably why she's like one of the best filmmakers working today, I think, to be honest.
I think it's just better to be specific, right? Like there's a revolving joke with DJs that you always have that one person in the middle of the night. They just walk up to the bar, maybe a little tipsy, and they're like, "Play some Bad Bunny." It's like we hate that. We hate that. But I rather you say that than say play something more upbeat, because then it's like that
You're
doesn't give
right.
me
Let me.
any direction. Like if you tell me Bad Bunny, then I know okay, this is a. Or if you're like just play some reggaeton. Like there's
Yeah.
so many eras of reggaeton that if you just tell me something specific, I can work with that. Right? It's kind of like be as detailed as possible, and then we can backtrack from there. Like you rather be overdressed than
Yeah.
underdressed, because then you can take off like the sports coat. But if you're underdressed, it's like you're stuck with that, right? So it's kind of more detailed, more possibilities.
I also love that, like somebody like play something more upbeat, as if you've just been like, yeah, you're like just sitting here playing reverb in the club.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're
And they
right.
come up
Maybe I
5 minutes
should play
later and they're
something that
like,
people
"That's
don't.
too
Oh,
upbeat.
wow.
My
That's too
mistake. That was
upbeat."
my mistake.
How did I
Yeah.
not think of that to make people enjoy what they're listening to? That's crazy.
Yeah. Thank God you came up and told me.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Let's go to Knee High, because that trailer looked awesome. By the way, it looked incredible. Where did you guys shoot that?
We shot in Iowa around Madrid and Altoona and Des Moines in the Des Moines area.
Were there a lot of sunrise shots? It looked like so many of that was like dusk. There was this one particular segment where you were walking next to fields and like running your hands along. I don't know if it was corn. I don't know what it was, but it looked so beautiful. It looked so beautiful.
We really had on that film kind of an embarrassment of riches with the the landscapes and the just the the horizons look painted on. Like when you see the film,
Mm.
as you've seen in the trailer, it's very it's hard to describe even the visual language in that film. It's just so unbelievably big and broad and epic, honestly. It's a very intimate film that is like from a very hushed, very, 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 very quiet, singular perspective. But the world around this character, this guy, Cal, feels so big. Like you see like the four lines of his county that raised him, you see them as these huge, broad corn lined, soybean lined horizons that just go on forever. And we didn't have very many sunrise shots, but we were drowning in sunsets. It was just unreal. And you can thank Marissa and Bruce James Bales, who was our cinematographer, for that.
It looked so beautiful. You also have such a writer's way of talking. Do you write?
Occasionally. Thank you.
You
But
have such a dense vocabulary. It is so you have so many words that you use that I'm like, I would never use that word there. An
you
embarrassment
can
of
tell me to shut up at
riches.
any time. It's all good.
No, God, no. I love these words that you're saying.
There's a
Don't
thing
shut
about
up.
like there's a things about like actors and writers, like you guys speak at like a different cadence than a lot of other people, like a
You
different
say
tone and
that, and then
cadence.
I'll listen back to something that I said, and I will just want to unzip my skin and evaporate, just horrified. Like I have no idea what I just
That's
what came out of my
everybody,
mouth.
dude. That's everybody. You're not alone on that. You have a gorgeous vocabulary. Embarrassment
Even
of
in even in
riches.
even in that sense, he's like, I want to unzip my
I
skin
know,
and
bro.
evaporate. Someone else would have just said,
I'm
I just want to
just
get, I want to disappear.
I'm gonna I'm gonna peace out of here now.
That was cool, man. That was cool. Or where we're from, that
But
we say
no,
that's fire. That's fire.
Yeah, that's fire. Dale,
that's
dale, that's
fire.
fire. No, I like how you were saying reggaeton also, George. I was like, wow, mira lo reggaeton. Play some reggaeton.
Oh man, with that really defined E on the end of
Yes,
reggaeton.
reggaeton. I love it. Okay, let's talk about dial-up also, because I don't know how you
Oh,
and Cole. You're not in LA. I saw Dial Up at the Cigar and Film Festival, whatever it was called, the American Society of Cigar and Films. I don't know if
Did
that's
you
what the
like it?
festival's called. What? I loved it, bro. That film
Awesome.
festival. Also, I mean, I'm from Miami. My dad smokes cigars every single day. I think I took my first puff of cigars when I was like 4 years old. So when somebody told me there's a film festival around this guy who like meets up at a cigar shop and he just started, it's all film though. That's the thing. It's 35 millimeter. I was
That's
like,
cool.
that sounds amazing. So,
I was unfamiliar with any of this until
dude, it
Cole
was.
very
Were you there?
unceremoniously
Did you go to the festival?
No,
Oh,
I saw the film at a different film festival in Durango, actually.
all of the films that were there, for anyone that's listening that had anything to do with it,
Mhm.
anything, you guys killed it. All the
Where
films
was it
were.
at?
It was here in LA. Yeah, I don't remember. It was in Beverly Hills somewhere in
Okay.
in a theater there, but it was. We've been to a lot of short film festivals, and some of them, I would say 70% of the films, just congratulations because you made something, but then 30% of them you're like, wow, that was something. They were achieving. They were going for a goal. There were some really interesting ideas, really interesting shots. This film festival, every single one that popped up, I don't know if it's because I just am drawn to anything shot on film, but they were all so beautiful, so deep.
Mm.
There were so many messages that were just being shown on there. It was really one of the best film festivals, and I love Dial Up, and I love Cole. I have a soft spot in my heart for him. Like I've known him
Same.
since when did I
Cole's a
meet him?
bro, dude.
He's the man. He's the man. I
Real
met him
cool
in
guy.
2018, I think, 2018, and we shot
Really?
some comedy sketches. I used to be part of this sketch group on YouTube, and him and Caleb. I don't know if you know Caleb Harris. I don't know if you've
Caleb,
met
oh,
him.
I know Caleb
Yeah.
Harris.
All right. All right. You know
Yeah,
Caleb.
he and Cole and I all met together at the exact. Well, I met him and Cole Needham, who we're talking about, at the exact same time on a project that never really got off the ground in Iowa, about a year before, actually. And
What
then
project? What project was it?
we don't need to get into all that,
Okay, all right, all right, all
but,
right. Because I
it
also
was.
had something that was supposed to go in Iowa that I didn't
Mm,
do, separate from Cole and Caleb, but it was we can offline that as well because it was a good thing I wasn't a part of it because
Cole's from Iowa, right?
Cole's from Iowa, so it
I
was
remember.
Caleb.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember now. Remember
what
now.
were you guys? What were you guys working on?
So with Caleb and Cole,
Mhm.
it was that sketch comedy stuff. So they came to
Oh, right,
me.
right, right. Yes, 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 yes. Sorry.
I met them through my wife. My wife had shot a music video that they did for some group called Space Monkeys, I think their name is. I don't know. It was a really good
Got
music video, really good. And they were saying they wanted to expand their director's reels and they wanted to do some comedy. So we were like, yeah. So we just raised some
cool.
money, put some of our money into it as well. And it just came out gorgeous. I loved it. So that's where I met Cole, and then we've just stayed friendly throughout the years. And we're always telling each other about projects. He goes, "Hey, I have this thing. If you guys want to come out," and I was just going to support him. Not that I didn't think it was going to be good. I think that anything he shoots is going to be beautiful. But the story was awesome, man.
Ooh, yeah.
It was awesome. So tell us about how you and Cole got connected. Tell us about the experience of shooting Dial Up. Just talk to me a little bit about that whole experience in general.
I mean, for anybody who doesn't really know Cole Needham's work, he's such like he's the most egoless workman he'll ever meet. Someone who actually does have a really specific vision, and he's so focused. He's one of the most focused human beings I've ever met in my life, which is one of his best traits, I think. In addition to just again being a homie, but I had watched him, create all this wonderful art for years, and we were trying to work together on something, but nothing organically came together until one day he just kind of texted me out of the blue and said, "What do you think about making this short about this guy who's basically trying to keep his life, which is in shambles, together, and is being asked very, very, very personal questions by a customer service uh, bot during a job interview gone wrong, ostensibly." He pitched it a lot more eloquently than that to me. But then he's like, also, we're planning to shoot it on film. And I was like, I'm there. Let's do it. And it was actually, as these things tend to go, it was a very quick cascade of events after that, where he had me read the script that he wrote with his writing partner, Jackson Peckinpah, which was beautiful. And it was one of those things where, even for a short, there's so much emphasis on getting to the kind of like the inciting incident really, really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But it did so in a way that you didn't feel like you had to rush through the opening, even as a reader, which is really, really cool. It was very engaging from the very first word. Every word meant something, which is very it is testament to the way that Cole writes, I would say, and certainly to the way that his films feel when you watch them. But yeah, it was exactly what I hoped it would be, and it's amazing. I'm so proud of it.
I have a question about shooting on film. Is this your first thing that you shot on film, or have you shot on film before?
This is my first thing that I've shot on film where I've been there the whole time. I was on set of a larger production for a few days that shot on film, but that was a whole other can of worms in a good way. It was
Okay,
very cool, but yeah.
good. So they were good. They were good trolley worms.
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, very different experiences, but both very positive.
What is? I've never shot on film. I've never done anything on
Really?
film. I've always done everything digital. Yeah. How is the process on shooting on film? Did they have to switch out the film every so often? Like, I don't know, because I've never done it. So talk to us a little bit as an actor, how, if anything, changes at all when you're shooting from digital to film, the actual mechanics of it. Did you feel like you had to get it? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yes, the film was loaded out every so often by our loader, Hannah Lee, who's wonderful, also an unbelievably intelligent crew person, just in general, like such a versatile talent. And I think one of the coolest things about shooting on film that I noticed was like, there's obviously the camera on any film set is treated kind of like a baby a little bit. It's very, talk about coddling. It's like it's the most delicate thing, and also a lot of times it's one of the most expensive things. And so working on this, like shooting on 35 millimeter, there was a lot of attention paid to making sure that every shot was so precise. Cole wanted to do 1 to 2 takes of everything max. So there was a lot of rehearsal, a lot of making sure that every movement was hit precisely so that we weren't wasting anything. Because obviously, as you know, the biggest difference between digital and film is that there's a finite amount of film, and it's expensive. It can be expensive. So you don't want to run out before you're done with the movie. And yeah, that was excellent. It was interesting to notice how much the gaffing, the lighting was different. It was.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
What
was different? What was different?
In camera, things obviously have to pop a little bit more, and so that meant that, I'm sure you've seen the film, and since it's available, people can watch it. We can talk about it. But there's a good chunk of it that is backlit by a full wall of windows, pretty much. We just sat there, and then there's all like very brightly lit windows behind me. And the entire time I was thinking, because I was preconditioned to shooting on digital, like this is going to look very, not blown out, but certainly like I pictured it was going to have like a haze to it, certainly in camera. And when I, went back and was looking at like some of I guess it was BTS of like the actual in-camera footage, it didn't look that way at all. It was very equalized, which was very interesting. These are the kind of things I like to pay attention to, kind of like an academic sort of way.
Is this
If I
because of
can't.
the film, or was it because of the lenses? That's interesting. I didn't know that film manipulated the capturing of light in frame like that.
This is where you're gonna have to ask somebody like Tom Quo, who provided the film for us, because
Okay,
he's certainly
okay.
more of like
Yeah, that's
the authority on
wild.
this. But
That
it could
I
be a mixture of the two.
wow, that is crazy. Was the camera louder than a digital camera?
I remember it being. I remember hearing it.
Like you
I
hear like
remember hearing
like
it.
the film going
Yes.
through the camera? Wow.
Yeah.
That's
But then
crazy.
again, that might also be me like inserting that memory into my brain. Like, oh, like certainly we shot on 35 millimeter. It should sound like a bell and howl.
Yeah, yeah. Because have you seen Oppenheimer? Have you seen Oppenheimer?
Mhm.
Yeah, George
Yeah.
saw a third. He saw a third of it in the theater.
Yeah, but
George,
yeah.
he fell
Yeah, I
asleep
heard
through
you
the
fell asleep, George.
rest.
Don't watch a movie at like 11 or midnight when you have a full days of work
No,
and you're over
listen.
25.
Yeah,
When you
that's
were
true.
telling me that, when you were telling me that story, like I was there. When you were telling that story on the pod, the entire time I just felt so bad. So all I could picture is all the times I've like recommended my friends go to these 3 hour movies, forgetting, like people work full, we all work these full days of work, and sometimes you need to set aside a day to really watch them.
Especially after over
So my
25. That's
condolences.
that's that's true. Condolences. That's okay. You'll get it back. You just got to rewatch it, George. It's
I
very
know.
rewatchable.
I
I
know.
think so. I
Yeah.
loved it.
No, I
But
want to. I want to really bad.
Downey talked about how there were certain shots that were very intimate. Obviously, everything was shot in 70 millimeter, and this was like the first time that they were able to shoot, medium close-ups with these IMAX cameras rather than it being something. So they retrofitted it for this movie, whatever. And he
Hmm.
talked about how loud it was, how loud the
Yeah.
camera was. So that just always
IMAX
blows my
cameras in
mind.
particular, right?
Yeah, yeah. He said
Yeah,
it
I
sounded like an
remember.
airplane.
Yeah, I
Wow.
remember watching one of the featurettes of the second Hunger Games film, Catching Fire. There's a really specific point in that film when they the shot follows Katniss, played by Jennifer Lawrence, up into the arena of the Hunger Games, and they transition from shooting on insert camera. I used to know which camera it was, but they transitioned from that, and all the arena scenes were shot on an IMAX camera. And you can see in that shot as she's going up in the tube, the aspect ratio
Yeah.
changes. And the behind the scenes footage was of them, coping with obviously shooting in the jungle. They're shooting in Hawaii, but they're also shooting on these IMAX cameras that are like, they sound like lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very verbose cameras.
It's like the Dark Knight. Just about the aspect ratio changing. The average audience member may not notice that. George, the next time you watch the Dark Knight, notice this. There's a moment in which where Batman's on top of the tower looking down when he's going to get whatever his name is, the guy who goes to China or wherever. And they're shooting that while he's on top of the tower, like looking down on an IMAX, so it fills up the entire screen. Like literally, you can watch it on your TV at home and you'll see it fills up the entire screen. But then when they go to the close-ups of him like loading up his gun, the aspect ratio changes because they switched on to another camera and things like that. It's just the manipulation of the perception that you're going to see through an audience member's eyes is fascinating to me, and that's another reason why I love movies, because there are little things that happen like that nobody notices, but that it's intentional. It might not even be intentional, but it still adds on to like the experience of the ride, which is amazing. That's
It's been a
amazing.
minute since I've watched The Dark Knight. I'm gonna have to watch
Oh,
that one.
hit it again, bro. And just notice that talking about language, I'm obsessed with the Dark Knight. But talking about language, there are so many. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, in the way that the scenes transition from one to another, not just the actual transitions in the editing, but the literal language, the verbal, what the characters are saying seamlessly indicate where the next scene is going to go, right? Like
Mhm.
there's one in particular where Bruce Wayne is telling Harvey Dent, he goes, I'm going to throw you a party, and he goes, nah, Bruce, you don't need to, I'm not up for re-election for another 2 years. He goes, you don't understand, one night with my pals, you'll never need another cent. And the next scene is the one where the mob is talking about how they got all their money stolen from them. So it's like, if you notice the words that connect the scenes in that
Mhm.
movie, to me it's like a masterpiece. I love that movie.
Yeah,
I
that
love
is
that
a
movie.
very I think that's a David S. Goyerism, right?
Oh,
David Goyer wrote that with Jonathan
yes,
Nolan.
yes,
Jonathan
yes,
Nolan did co-write The Dark Knight, right?
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
He,
that's what I
Wow.
thought. I was like,
yeah.
please fact check me if that's not correct, but I believe that's a David Goyerism for sure.
I love David Goyer. Great, great writer. Great writer.
He's a wonderful writer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let's
And
talk
such a
about.
nerd.
Let's. Yeah, I know he is such a nerd. That's why I like him also. Because when he was taking over the CW, I'm not CW. All these WB and DC comics and all this stuff. Like, all right, this is gonna be awesome. That's kind of when I started reading comics heavy. Let's talk about before we get into the weeds with that. I want to know about some inspirations that you have. What made you want to become an actor? I know that you wrote it. We read it a little bit earlier, but you're very articulate in what you want to do. You're clearly passionate about what you're doing. You're still yearning, and you're very grateful for everything that you've done as well. What are some moments in your life that have kind of been landmarks for you in terms of pursuing and catching what you're doing?
Ooh, pursuing and catching. That's a perfect way of putting it. I think that's one of the most fun parts about this, isn't it? Is that you get to kind of be like a perpetual student in a way, kind of, where it's like this. It sounds very like it sounds very pretentious, but it's like you're kind of like in always in pursuit of that imperfect science, kind of. Makes me want to vomit. Saying that out loud, but it's one of those things, where it's like it's like capturing lightning in a bottle over and over again. Like if you do it, specifically, I guess not specifically on film and on stage, when a scene or like a production writ large, once it's finished or like right after, once it's done, everyone can feel it that it's right. Like everyone from you to your scene partner to the gaffer to if you're working on stage, the audience. If you ask one person, they're like, "Yeah, I felt it." um, Something about it just worked, which is it's very exciting. I like that part of it. Um, but I think what really galvanized me was seeing a lot of, I guess, people that, whether on film or on stage, were after that exact thing. Whether they're in pursuit of that feeling or they were eliciting that for an audience. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of like theater on TV, PBS theater, I guess. That's where I saw my first productions of Death of a Salesman, uh, Medea, All My Sons, uh, and I was just enraptured. I was so taken away with like this concept of like as a kid, it was explained to me like very succinctly, like they're playing pretend, but they're doing it in a way where you can't even tell that they're pretending. Whether it's something as simple and as human as like an Arthur Miller play or a Tracy Letts play, or something as high concept as humans interacting with dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. Like they do it in a way where it blurs the lines between, like make believe and reality, which is really, really so exciting to watch. That's why like people love movies. That's why people love going, to see theater. But I think like, seeing the performances of people like Viola Davis and
Mm,
Montgomery Clift,
mm.
Juliette Binoche, Marion Cotillard, Isabelle Huppert, um, God, Jessica Chastain, Gina Rollins, like these James Garner. I could go on and on and on. Those are the people that really, made it, possible. Like I know what I'm gonna do.
You have a
I would
wide
say,
range right there too. I just wanted to note that that's a wide range of inspiring actors. That is not just like your average actors to galvanize you, like you said. That is a very learned and wide range of actors to craftsmen, I would say, and craftswomen, however you say it,
mm,
of looking at, because all those people are heavy hitters and well respected in the community.
did you have some that really spoke to you? That kind of
Oh, bro.
like
I
range
mean,
you came to?
yeah. Talking about the Dark Knight. Heath Ledger was the first one for me that was like,
Mm,
I didn't coming from Miami, and George can talk about this too. I don't think that it was in, as McConaughey says, in the vernacular of my dreams to think that I could be an actor. It
mm,
wasn't like a choice. even a possibility in my head. And then I saw that movie when I was 16, and I was like, oh wow, somebody got paid to do that. That is wild. I just didn't. I couldn't stop thinking about it every single day. And like something that you said, if one person feels it, whether it's stage work, whether it's film work, whatever, if one person feels it, that's like the job is done. And
Mhm.
I grew up playing sports as well. I was never great at them, but I was always on the squad. So I was always on the team, and the whole idea. See, George is smiling. I see that little smirk over there, you motherfucker. So it's the whole idea and concept of teamwork has been really appealing to me all my life, and that's how I feel a film set. That's how I feel a production on stage is. And I heard Heath Ledger talking about that one time, that it's all in pursuit of something greater than yourself.
Mhm.
And that was something that really moved me. I mean, Heath Ledger was one that moved me greatly when I was young. And as I've gotten older, I mean, there's just so. I think that Mads Mikkelsen, right? I think he is.
Mads Mikkelsen. Oh my
Yes,
God.
Mads Mikkelsen is an underrated actor. Personally, in my opinion, that guy is unbelievable.
Have you
Um,
seen Thomas Vinterberg's The Hunt?
no, but I
Change
know
your life.
exactly what you're talking
Change your
about.
life, Isaac.
I saw him in Another Round. Have you seen Another
I
Round?
love Another Round. Yeah, Thomas
Oh,
Vinterberg as
bro.
well.
What
Yeah.
a great what a great movie. That movie was awesome. I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. But just even Gene Hackman is a big one for me. And a lot of more director driven for myself. Like Sidney Lumet's movies are just
Mhm.
unreal. I saw Network not too long ago, and it was unbelievable.
Mm,
Um, so
incredible.
I'm a big Nolan fan, just personally, and I think that he does a fantastic job. Kind of talking about your film, Nihai, like you were saying earlier, he does a really great job of taking these really gigantic sort of landscapes and makes you feel very intimate in them.
Hmm.
So I'm always fascinated by that kind of thing. But I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to mention that you
No.
have a very wide range of people that have inspired you. I mean, Viola Davis, Juliet. How do you say her last name? Binoche? I don't know how to say her last name.
Binoche, yeah.
Yeah.
La Binoche.
Yes, she is amazing. Also, there's just so many people that really move. Javier Bardem was huge for me. Also, like No Country for Old Men. That guy, talk about stillness
Wow.
and just quiet. Unreal.
And
Unreal.
also, like, the ability to be unbelievably funny while also being very scary. Like, I think for anybody who's ever out there programming, Javier Bardem double feature, put in, I want to throw in for consideration Skyfall and Dune Part 2.
Oh, bro, Lisan Al Gaib. Oh,
The me
he is so humble, Lisan Al
the
Gaib.
way, the
Bro.
way that his face alone, I think, powered the World Wide Web for a solid
Oh my
week after
god.
that film came out, just purely by the power of some of those line deliveries, which are, I think, probably the key to some of the best comedy is the most straight-faced delivery.
I
And
agree. It's so earnest.
he
It's
believes
so
in Lisan
earnest.
al-Gaib.
It's so. Have you seen Dune Part Two,
Yeah.
George?
No, but I've been wanting to. I haven't seen either one. Which one you guys think is
Ah,
better?
you got to see both. Yeah, I don't know about better, but you got to see both.
I know. I gotta watch both. I gotta watch both.
They kind of like hold hands with each other
Okay.
in
Yeah.
a really
Okay.
specific way. I will say, if you
I
try
hear
to
they're
go see it
amazing.
after, they are, but like if you try to go see it after a full work day, you will fall asleep again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not
No,
gonna.
no.
I didn't even think
And
it had anything with Oppenheimer. It was just Oppenheimer. It was just I had a full day, and you could put any movie. And it was a loud movie. I was sleeping. I would wake up to the explosions, like, and then go back to bed. And so it, was, it wasn't really the
anything
movie
past
itself.
10 p.m., bro, even if a movie's an hour and a half, I'm not
Yeah,
going at 10 p.m.
no.
If I go at 10 p.m., I
Yeah,
can't do it
I'm old.
anymore. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't do that. I'd rather be at home
Yeah,
going to sleep relatively early. That sounds fantastic to me. But 10 p.m.? No. We had a friend who had a birthday party, and it started at 10:30, and then they were going to celebrate it at midnight. And we were like, hey, we love you. We're not going.
I can't. We'll celebrate. We'll go to lunch.
Yeah,
The next day.
yeah, that
yeah.
sounds fantastic. But dude, you're so right. The earnestness of him, Skyfall. I wish there was more of him in Skyfall, personally.
Oh my God, yeah. I would take an extra 60 minutes of him, tack it on at the end, make it 3.5 hours long. I don't care to
I
get like
know.
one of the richest Bond villains I've
Oh,
ever seen on film.
let's talk about because we're gonna start wrapping up soon, but I'm very
Mm.
interested in knowing this. You talked about All My Sons. You talked about Arthur Miller plays Medea. Tracy Letts, love it. I love that. All My Sons. Chris is one of my. I would love to play Chris. Did you play Chris? Because I saw that you won an Irene Ryan Award for All My Sons. Who
I
did you
did,
play?
yeah.
Oh,
I played back there.
you motherfucker! I knew it. I knew you played Chris. You'd be an awesome Chris. I could just tell. He is
A,
an
thank you, but B, you should certainly read for it if there's ever a production in Los
oh,
Angeles.
dude, that and Biff. Those Death of a Salesman, Biff.
Oh,
I
Bev.
I I die whenever I read Biff. So
I I remember specifically it was I watched it was Death of a Salesman, and then right after that, it was like some theater on TV. They were showing The Glass Menagerie, and I remember so distinctly as a 7-year old wanting to play Tom, which is so funny to picture like a 7-year old just being perpetually drunk on stage. Very funny to me.
That's a great play. I take classes out here, and somebody just did the scene with, um, which are Laura and the mother. I forget what the mom's name is, but they just did this scene where they come home and she finds out that she hasn't been going to school, and she like goes
Mhm.
crazy. It's just I love Tennessee Williams. I don't remember what her name is right now, but
I'm so glad we're figuring this out now while we're
yeah.
on a podcast.
Yeah,
You know,
no, it's perfect.
shows how good the
You,
internet
you
research
have
can
an
tell.
incredible recollection for names of people on set. Also, that's what I was going to say. When you were rattling off, yes, our wonderful. She changed out the film. I was like, I don't know how you remember all these names. That's very
Annalise, shout
impressive.
out.
That's very impressive. Okay, so I wanted to know: are there certain filmmakers out there, certain playwrights that really have moved you, continue to move you right now? You can shout out. Let's talk about current ones. Are there any current filmmakers that are on your list of, man, that'd be awesome? Period, question mark.
To work with. My God, how much time do you have? Like Kelly Reichardt is at the tip top of the pyramid for me. She's one of my absolute favorites. Um,
Who is, I don't know who Kelly Riker is. Who is she?
Kelly Reichardt is a filmmaker who makes a lot of her films out of Portland, but she's made some out of Montana. She made a film called Certain Women out of Montana. Her most recent film is a feature called Showing Up. She also made Wendy and Lucy, Meek's Cutoff. Her first feature was called River of Grass. Um, Night Moves. She makes a lot of her films with Michelle Williams. Um, First Cow was Kelly Reichardt's. I remember First Cow was a film, one of the last films I saw in a theater before the pandemic kind of shuttered everything in New York City. She's a perfect example of one of those filmmakers who's so hyper specific. The words in her scripts that she typically writes with John Raymond are so important. She doesn't want you to add a like or like a pause or a or a but, none of that. Like it's all very important as she wrote it, but she is so just emphatic about the moments that exist in between moments in movies and in real life, which is I think a lot of her films would go well as like they would do well as a study of how well you could adapt a still life into film. So she's amazing. Ava DuVernay,
Oof,
Lynn Ramsey,
oof,
Andrea Arnold, uh, Sarah Polley, Jane Campion, Rick
oof.
Doremus, Steven Soderbergh, um, Spielberg, obviously.
I mean,
Um, on stage, I would really love to work with Lila Neusbauer.
who is that?
She would just, she's a director primarily in theater, but she actually directed a feature film 2 years ago, which was my favorite film of the whole year called Causeway, which was beautiful. And that was a film with Jennifer Lawrence, Brian Tyree Henry.
Yes. Okay. And I think it's on Hulu, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong.
Is it on Hulu?
I think it might be, if I'm not mistaken.
Fantastic. It's a wonderful film. Yeah, but that's just a few for sure.
Wow. That was lovely. Are you English, by the way?
Am I English? No,
Yes.
I'm certainly
What
American.
what's your heritage?
Oh, on my father's side, it's Welsh and Irish, I believe. So there's a little bit of English adjacent in there, and then adjacent ancestry, I should say. And then on my mother's side, it's a little bit of a sock drawer, but um, Mexican is the most prevailing.
Right on. And the reason why I asked that is because of the way that your inflection goes up when you said, "Is it on Hulu?" That just reminded me very much of, like, we have some friends that live in England, and they'll say things
Mm.
like that. Is that the coffee? Yeah, yeah. No, this is the coffee. That's the coffee. So that
Oh
was
my
a
God.
total little aside. All right, we're at 113. So I think we should.
Are we actually?
Yeah, we're at 113 right now.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, time.
Oh my God.
Coffee, baby. That's coffee. So
Me thinking that
coffee.
this was going to be so much more formal. This has been pretty amazing.
Just a
actually.
kickback, you know. We're just chilling,
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why we even started this. Is because George and I, obviously on opposite coasts. We usually say this at the beginning, but we're on opposite coasts. We've known each other since we were 4 years old. You know, he was one of my groomsmen in my wedding. He's one of my brothers in life, and
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, we didn't talk to each other as much as we would have liked to have. So we're like, let's just start a podcast, and we're like, all right. And if nobody listens to it, great. People listen to it, great. But it really just kind of morphed into this beautiful kaleidoscope of bringing people from all different walks of life in, and it's just being, what better way than just to have a nice cup of Joe and just talk to each other. Share a nice cup of Joe. So we ask two questions at the end of all of our podcasts. You saw Cole, so you probably know it. I think we should stick to our OG questions, George.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's fun.
So I will ask you this. I've always had this idea of a steel tissue in my mind. And the reason why it's a steel tissue is because a tissue can satisfy both wiping away a tear and wiping away a drop of blood. So I always likened that to resiliency and vulnerability. So in your life, and this doesn't have to be, you don't have to dig too deep for this if you don't want, but in your life, I have a feeling you are. Anyways, what are some moments that have made you the most resilient and the most vulnerable? Because specifically in acting as well, I think those kind of go hand in hand. So what are some moments that have made you both?
Made me most resilient and most vulnerable. I do like this question, by the way. I listened to I, again, like I said at the beginning, long time listener, but I like how a lot of people's responses have varied from like actual tangential trauma to something as simple as
Yes.
um like the most I don't know, like just very surface level type of human experience that kind of shapes how you think and problem solve forever moving forward. It's very fascinating. I like the question a lot. I would say it's something that made me the most resilient and the most vulnerable. Hmm. I would say probably just like, I don't know, like just this is such a stupid answer. I'm so sorry in advance, but like just reading books. Like I think that I buried myself in books for the longest time as like a mission critical level introvert. And they always felt to me, especially like as a kid, like they almost felt like ways to experience the world around me kind of in a vacuum, in a way that I didn't feel like I had especially as a little kid, kind of like the social wherewithal or the vocabulary to really deal with. And that's how I first got to understand. I came to understand like people's like internal monologues and their rich inner lives, and it became about so much more than escapism to me over time. It was after a while it actually like informed a lot of my own frustrations with the way that I communicated versus the way that I wanted to communicate. And I think that's how, I mean, whether it's by reading books or watching movies, like a lot of people kind of discover their id by uh, either literally looking in the mirror or like trying to uh, align themselves with certain characters or even just works of fiction, I guess. And reading books really kind of opened up my heart in a little bit, in a little way. Um, and not in a little way. My God, this coffee is really speaking to me. It really opened up my mind and my heart in a way that reminded me it is okay not to have the right answers to really complicated situations. And you will find you'll find like strength in yourself in places that you never once ever expected. So thank you, Michael Crichton and Ernest Hemingway and Joan Didion and Pittacus for that. I really appreciate that.
Whoa, Michael Crichton and Ernest
Michael Crichton.
Hemingway. Michael Crichton's an OG. That's Jurassic Park, by the way, George. Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park, Westworld. He did a lot of
Okay.
good books. And Ernest Hemingway. I mean, come on, you know who Ernest Hemingway is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. That was
Yeah.
beautiful. That was exactly what was needed. So I also just wanted to mention, like, I loved how you were like looking off while you were thinking, and me and George both were smiling at that because you would just look off and then like laugh at yourself because you can tell that you were going through all of that recollection of whatever was happening. It was really nice to watch. I just got to be honest with you. That was awesome.
Thank you. That's very kind. But I think that was more of a side effect of just suddenly remembering that I had eyes on me while answering a very significant question that I felt like all of a sudden very ill-equipped to answer. So
No,
thank you for being
very
patient
well
with me.
equipped. That was amazing. George, take us home, Papa.
So it's a very simple question. It's just fill in the blank. Rather, it's not even a question. It's just fill in the blank, and you can be as simple as you want it to be, or it's extravagant as you want it to be. Whether you're feeling the moment, how you're feeling, yada yada. So it's basically fill in the blank. It's my name is blank, and I am blank.
Oh, okay. My name is Michael Ridley, and I am buzzing because I'm realizing that this is it's probably inadvisable to have a good amount of coffee and not a lot of food in the morning. My equilibrium is kind of all over the place right now.
You're probably sweating,
So,
getting the cold sweats.
yeah. I think it's a symptom of this, and also just I don't know, just this has been a very nice conversation. I would do this any day, on or off the air. So
We appreciate that, bro.
For real,
You
yeah.
are a fascinating human being. Very
thank you.
fascinating.
You guys are too. Thank you for letting me pick your brains a little bit.
Of course, man.
I know you probably get that a lot, but yeah, it's nice to be able to kind of break down the way that the other creatives kind of approach a really amorphous kind of line of work. So I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Hey, Isaac, he reminds me of one of those. I think it's like the 4 agreements. One of them is like be eloquent with your word.
It's be impeccable with your word.
There we go. Yeah.
Be
Sin
impeccable.
pecad.
Yeah,
So it's just basically, if you haven't read that book, it's a great book by Don Miguel Ruiz, just 4 agreements. And that just basically means be without sin in your word. So it's like, if you don't like peanut butter, don't say you like peanut butter. That kind of simple as that. Don't go against yourself. And I think that's something that you do. You seem very well in tune. You seem very well in tune with who you are. So thank you for coming on. This
Appreciate
was
it, man.
a delight.
This was awesome, you guys. Thank you.
It was awesome. Everybody, thank you for listening. And in case you ever forget,
This is the Cafe con Podcast.
that was beautiful. You just got to hit it on that. All right, ladies and germs, thank you.
This is the Cafe con Podcast.